This here is my microprocessor's project. It's a dht11 sensor paired with an OLED screen that can also host its own, showing the temperature and humidity of the room or of the place that it's in. And I'm going to be explaining why I did it, why is it useful, and how to do it yourself if you feel like it. So let's get into it. As you can see, this is ASP32 C3 mini or super mini, sorry. That's what we used in this course with the dht11 sensor, also connected with the OLED screen, OLED monitor. Prints the temperature and humidity of that the dht11 will calculate. And it also hosts its own website, and this is the default website IP address that you can get into to access the website that the ASP is hosting. As you can see, here is the website. It just says dht11 sensor, temperature is 22.6, humidity is 48%. So let's get into explaining this circuit diagram. Let's get into this circuit diagram. We have the dht11 here, we have the ESP32 here, which is not a real ESP32. Sadly, Photos doesn't support a real ESP32, so it's just a copycat, you could say. We also have the OLED screen here, which I couldn't find my exact OLED screen. This one is kind of similar though. Sadly, it doesn't work like the real one, so yeah, here we have the ground, right, which is connected to the ESP32 here, and it's also connected to the dht11 and the OLED screen. And here we have the 3.3 volt from the ESP32 connected to the OLED screen and also the dht11. But as you can see here, we have a 10K resistor, which we did not have in real life. Why? Because the model of dht11 that I use has a built-in 10K resistor, so we don't need to implement our own. But some other models might not have it, so you might need to put your own 10K resistor. You have to look it up and know the exact model that you have. We also have the data here, which is connected to the D2, and the SCL and SDA also connected to the D4 and D5. Now you can change them as however you like. I have them this way because I coded them this way. You can just change the code to whoever you like. Now let's get into explaining the code itself. Here are the libraries that I have included. We have the Wi-Fi library, we have the wire library for the OLED monitor. We also have the Adafruit GFX and SSD 1306 is the monitor type that I used, or the OLED screen that I used. We also have the Wi-Fi library, and this is the DHT library. Now here I defined the size of my screen, the width and the height. Mine is 128 by 64, yours might be different. You should look up your own and assign the value that you have. And here what I did is just defined the dht11 and also defined its pin. And here, as you can see, I made the ESP32 host its own website. Its own Wi-Fi, and this is the password of the Wi-Fi, and this is the name of the Wi-Fi. Here, as you can see, I made the HTML website. As you can see, it's just a simple page, really. There's nothing really complicated here. The only piece of code that might be complicated is this. I have these two values, the H and the T. H is the humidity and T is temperature. But they're float, so we change their type here to string. And we also replace temp, or this one, as you can see, by the string of the temperature, and we also replace the HUM, which is this one, by the string of humidity. And that's it pretty much for the web page. There's nothing really complicated here. If you know a little bit of CSS and HTML, it's gonna be really simple for you to make it. You can make your own, or you can just change mine to whatever you like. I'll be leaving the code for this project in the description. Here the voice setup. I use the serial 115200. Here I said DHT begin, and I assigned the wires for the OLED screen. This just handles if the OLED failed or crashed. It will just print to the serial that the OLED has failed and keep it in a while loop. So it's like an infinite loop basically until we change it and fix it. Here you start the Wi-Fi hosting. As you can see, there's nothing really complicated here, just the setup for the project. Let's get into the loop. This is how you read the temperature and the humidity that the dht11 is calculating. It's very simple. You basically will say dht, which is the value that I assigned. As you can see, here's the dht that I assigned by the dht pin on the left and the dht type on the right. You need the dht type and the pin in order for this to work. But after you assign them here, you just say whatever the name that you put here, and you can just use any like functions from the library. As you can see, it's just dht dot read humidity, and that's it. There's nothing really complicated about this, thanks to libraries, and also dht dot read temperature. And here is how we use a display. We basically have some functions, which display dot clear display dot set text size. You can put 1 or 2. 3 is a bit too big for this screen, so don't use 3. It's only 1 or 2. Display dot set cursor, which will assign the value of the place that you will start the text from. You also have display.println or display.print also is usable. But in order for anything to appear in the display, you have to include this, display.display. This is what basically makes the things actually appear in the OLED display, which in my case is the SSD 1306. Now, if your display is different, it's probably gonna still be the Adafruit, which how it works is gonna be really similar. You just need to figure out what type it is exactly and what libraries to include, and that's all. Here, as you can see, I also print the temperature and humidity to the serial as well, not just the OLED screen and the website. So why I print them to the serial is basically just to debug if anything wrong happened, so I realized that something went wrong. And as you can see here, I just make here I printed to display the dht11 sensor, the name of the project, and then the temperature, and then we print the temperature basically. And then C stands for Celsius, and humidity, and this percentage, so yeah, we have to also put this, and that's pretty much it. We also have the IP printed on the OLED screen, so if I ever forget the default IP is 192.168.4.1. If I ever forget that, I'll be able to see it through the OLED screen. And that's pretty much it for explaining the code in the circuit diagram. Now, before we get into the next thing, I just want to show you that it works perfectly in the serial as well. Temperature now is 23.4, humidity is 49%. Now, let's get into why do we need this. Now, why would we need this is pretty obvious, I think. So I'm going to get into some usages of the dht11 sensor and why is it actually very useful. One, air conditioners. My air conditioner, basically what it does is that you will set a temperature, for example, 17, and it will measure the room temperature. When it reaches 17, it will stop from the freezing mode into just a normal fan that will just blow air until the temperature goes up again. So the temperature stays at 17 through the whole night. Some other usages are like fire prevention system. You can place the dht11 in somewhere in your room. You also connect it to an automatic water system that will just blow water in the whole room. If the temperature got a bit too high, you would know that something went wrong. You can also use it in a fun way where, let's say that you want a smart home and you would put the dht11 sensor. You'd be able to access the temperature anytime you want. And let's say that you finished work, you want to get home, you have an air conditioner, and you make the dht11, the microcontroller turn on the air conditioner when the temperature is a bit low. That way, when you get home, it will be high enough for you, it will be low enough for you to cool down in the room for you. And that's basically a smart house system. You can also use it to monitor some plants, or some plants need some fixed temperature for them. You can also measure the temperature and know if something went wrong. That's basically some usages of the dht11. Now, of course, there's unlimited ideas that you can use it in, but those are basically some ones that I thought about, and I thought that they're good to mention, let's say. Now, before I end the vid, I want to really quickly thank my university, Atlas University, and also my professor, Mohammed Abdelati, for this course. And now let's get into explaining the dht11 sensor, but in a very simple way. Now, basically, the humidity sensor, it will just sense the electrical property, or the electrical property change. That's what it will actually measure or sense. And for the temperature, it will since the temperature, since the resistor itself, and how does the resistors change. There's like different ways for, if it was hotter, the resistance would be different from colder. It will basically read both of them and then convert them into numbers, and it prepare digital data. It will send the data through one data pin, and then our microcontroller is going to receive the data and do whatever we want with them, maybe show them or like host a website or anything we want. In short, the air's temperature and humidity sensor feels the change, the IC converts it into numbers, sends to the ESP32, we get temperature and humidity values. Now that's a very simple way of explaining it. I went and searched how it actually works. It's very complicated compared to this, but if you just want to understand it in more depth and details, you should look it up yourself. And that was it for my project. It was really fun to work on. I'll see you.